Annabel, how has social media helped your career or hindered it?
Social media has been a huge part of my career, actually. It's fed my curiosity and helped me find things that I wouldn't otherwise have found. Found materials and research and people too, and allowed me to ask questions directly of people I don't know. And that's the extraordinary luxury and accommodation of social media, and one of the most exciting things about it. And I still feel that way about it, that it really opened my brain to the possibility of media working differently, that you could be in touch with a reading audience and communicating and learning from your audience rather than just broadcasting to them as we used to do.
So, Annabel, have there been any downsides?
There are always downsides to social media, I think, and that's because you can't really control who you're in touch with, and you don't often know who they are, or and if you're feeling particularly vulnerable or insecure or anxious, then sometimes, a well-aimed blow from somebody on social media, even if you don't know who they are, can be incredibly injurious. And I think I did probably 10 years ago find that stuff very, very hard to cope with. I have probably toughened up a bit over the years, but I also am worried. I'm always worried about younger people on social media, and worried about, particularly during lockdowns, people interacting on social media when they're at home by themselves without friends or loved ones around them, and what that could mean in terms of responses, because you do get some pretty tough feedback, particularly women.
And while on that, many women express deep concerns over the trolls that exist on social media. What has been your experience here, and do you believe more should be done to regulate social media platforms?
I think social media platforms continue to be this sort of Wild West in terms of safety, particularly for women. And I think a lot of men are surprised when they see the kind of material that particularly high-profile women get absolutely shot at them on a daily basis. You do get a bit used to it, but that's not really a justification, nor is it any sort of consolation. It's this extraordinary undercurrent of hostility that, as a woman on social media, you do feel pretty strongly.
And finally, Annabel, do you believe the responsibility of regulating social media platforms is up to the governments, the technology companies, or users themselves?
What happens with emerging technologies is that they regulate themselves or they get regulated, right? Like, that's what happens. That's what history tells us. And we're now at this interesting juncture, I think, where legislators now understand how social media works. I think there was a bit of a loophole there where everyone was a bit like, oh, well, that's just on Twitter. Surely you can't defame anyone on there or whatever. And people are really, I think, now that social media is such a standardized part of the media, there is a reckoning. And I think that what the big social media companies are starting to appreciate is that either they fix the system or it gets fixed. And, if I were an operator in that sphere, I know which one I'd prefer.